Recording in progress.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. اللهم لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك وشر ما عندنا. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي كل وقت وحين. أما بعد، إن شاء الله تعالى, today we continue, and we are up to the section of الرضاع. So in the last class, we spoke about العدة and the waiting period that a person must wait if separation happens. Separation could be done from, of course, from divorce or the death of a husband. And we know that separation means that the lady is able to marry someone else. Marry someone else. When it comes into marriage, separation, anything like this, we know that after marriage, usually one of the outcomes of marriage is pregnancy. And after pregnancy, usually a woman is able to produce milk. So it only makes sense that the fuqaha mention the section of al-rada', breastfeeding, after talking about the rulings of marriage. Okay. Also, in Islam, it's not only that rada' has rulings, but rada' is also a reason other than marriage for people to become haram for each other, to become mahram for each other. So uh, becoming mahram means the person can't marry that person, that they don't break their wudu, and many other reasons. Breastfeeding is one of those reasons. Okay. So breastfeeding, subhanAllah, has a lot of importance and fiqh, and it makes total sense for it to be mentioned in this particular part of the books of fiqh. What is the definition of al-rada', of breastfeeding? In the Arabic language, it has a meaning, and then in fiqh, it has another meaning. So in Arabic language, breastfeeding only means to drink from a breast, suckle a breast, basically. That's what it means in Arabic language. If someone was to drink milk from a cup, in Arabic language, it's not called rada'. Okay. In fiqh, it doesn't mean the same thing. Okay. In fiqh, it means that the milk of a specific female, so if milk was to come from other than a female, it doesn't count. Okay. And even if that milk is mixed with other liquids, but that milk, okay, or something that is a product of that milk reaches the stomach of a baby, okay, that is the rada' that has Islamic rulings in it. Okay, so from here we understand, a lot of confusion that is raised today when people talk about breastfeeding in Islam and how can breastfeeding affect other people. And a lot of people even use this to basically try to make other people related to them, haram for them, and when they are older. That has nothing to do with any of the madahib in Sharia. Breastfeeding in fiqh is totally separate to breastfeeding in the Arabic language. Breastfeeding in fiqh is specific to what? To breastfeeding that makes a person haram. It can only be done when a little baby is young and little, 2 lunar years or less, and the milk reaches the stomach. Why? Because their body grows in those 2 years a lot more dramatically than it grows in any other time of their life. Okay. So basically this milk is mixed and it's a part of their body, it's a part of their blood, it's a part of the flesh in their body. And Allah Ta'ala has made it that many rulings depend on this breastfeeding. So like we said, the definition in Sharia is that milk of a specific female. So it has to be milk. That's the first thing. Second thing, it has to be from a female. The third thing is that this milk, if it was mixed with another liquid, like it's mixed with water or something else, as long as it still has the same color and taste, it's still considered milk. okay, or a product of her milk, like it was made into cheese or yogurt, for example, okay, it reaches the stomach of the baby. So it has to have to eat it or drink it basically, and the baby has not reached 2 lunar years, and this has to happen 5 different times. Has to happen 5 different times for the person to become haram. Okay. So the things that this definition does not include, number one, is the milk of a man. So it's not the norm, but it could happen that a person takes certain hormones or something and they produce milk. That milk, if a baby was to drink it, it doesn't make the baby anyone mahram. It has no effect, basically. Okay. Now, the scholars say if someone does drink from a male's milk, it's a dislike, it's makruh for that person and for his male offsprings to marry the person who drank from him. That baby girl who drank from his milk, it's only makruh, but it's not haram because it doesn't really have any effect. Okay. The second thing is the milk of an animal has no effect. Milk of an animal has no effect. Okay? If 10 people drink from the same cow, doesn't mean that they're brothers sisters in Islam or anything like that. The third thing is the milk of a khuntha, someone who's not clearly a male or female. We don't give any ruling to their milk until it's proven that they are female, and then it becomes haram. Okay. The lady that produces milk has conditions also. Okay. The first thing is to be clearly female. So it includes of a lady who is and is not a virgin, as long as she's a lady, even if she wasn't pregnant, for example, but she produces milk, khalas. The ruling happens and the effect is there. Number two, she has to be 9 lunar years or more, just like we said in Hayd. That is who is considered has the possibility to be a lady, basically. Okay, and then the third thing is the milk has to come out of her when she is alive, has to be extracted when she's alive, even if it's drunk after her death. She would still become a relative of that person, but it has to be drunk while she is alive, while she is in the state of al-haya or life. Sorry, it has to be extracted when she's alive, even if it's drunk after she's dead. So if someone, for example, produced milk 20 years ago, and it was saved or made it into powder or cheese or frozen, for example, and then it was drank later on, then the rulings of Rada'a would still apply to that person who drank. Okay. The baby who drinks the milk also has conditions. Okay. So the baby has to be alive, of course, has to be alive, and has to be under 2 lunar years. So every lunar year is how many days? So yeah, so I think it's every 30 years or something. You lose a year, something like that. So it's a little bit less than 2 years, slightly less than 2 years. There's not much difference when it comes into 2 years, but 30, 40 years, you find a lot of difference in the age. The baby needs to feed 5 times. A lot of the focus in this dars will be to determine what 5 times mean. Okay, most people, the understanding is that the baby has to engage in 5 full, long periods of feeding, basically like have 5 meals, which is not correct according to any of the madhab. Okay, that's a very famous fatwa that's around today, that the baby has to be full, has to drink 5 meals and fill the stomach up 5 times. That's not true. Okay, and how are we able to determine when the baby's stomach is full or not? Maybe it's full from a previous feed or something. And it's very difficult to determine these things. In Sharia, the rulings are not, they usually the rulings depend on things that are very simple and clear and easy to determine. Okay. So scholars say that each feed can be 1 drop of milk plus. Okay. There's not a specific amount the baby needs to have for it to be considered a feed. As long as some milk goes to the stomach, then it's considered a feed. Okay, when do we consider if the baby is drinking for 1 hour, for example? Do we consider this 1 feed, 2 feeds, 3 feeds, 4 feeds, 5 feeds? How do we know when one is finished and the second one starts? That's what we should pay attention to. So if the baby stops feeding by themselves, baby, they're feeding, and then they go up, they start playing, they go around. Okay. Okay. Or the lady takes the baby off the breast herself, and then returns, then it's considered 2 feeds. Okay. If the baby's still feeding, okay, the first feed, but it's just trying to breathe, so they didn't intend to stop. She didn't take him off. It was just a second for breathing or something like that. It's not considered. People don't consider it to be a separate feed. Then it will only be considered 1 feed. 1 feed. So 1 feed is basically a whole shot of drinking. Basically, that's, if you want to make it simple, 1 shot of drinking, one go, for example, without taking any breaks for other than breathing. That would be considered a feed. Okay. Like we said, it's considered breastfeeding if the milk is poured into the baby's stomach 5 times. If they're given 5 shots of milk or whatever it is, it's all considered feeding. Okay. Now, the scholars generally say 5 times means 5 different extractions from the breast and 5 different absorptions from the baby of milk. So basically, there was drinking and stopping, drinking and stopping, drinking and stopping. That's basically how it is considered. Okay. What are the rulings in Islam that apply to a baby who's breastfed from a woman? Okay. So all the ancestors and descendants of that lady, the milk mother, and her husband or anyone she was intimate with, okay, other than zina. Zina in the Shafi'i madhab has no effect on anything. It's not considered anything. Even if someone has a baby through zina, it's not considered their daughter. Okay, so if she was intimate with someone other than zina, okay, any lawful relationship, anyone she's married to or was intimate with, become haram upon the one who fed. Okay. Plus, so this is called usul and furu'. Usul are the ancestors, and then furu' are the descendants. So anyone who's related to the person who they were a descendant from, their forefathers, whatever it is, and then all the offsprings become haram, become mahram, means they can't marry them ever again, and they become relatives of that person. So if a girl breastfeeds, she doesn't have to wear hijab in front of them, she can't marry them, they become mahram for her. Also, they don't break their wudu, stuff like that. All the hawashi are the people from the sides, meaning uncles and aunts, stuff like that. Not descendants or not forefathers, but other relatives also become their uncles and aunts. So basically, the person breastfeeds now becomes a part of the family, just as if he was the son or the daughter of that person. That person who breastfed only, not the rest of their brothers and sisters. That person now is integrated into the family, just as if he was one of them. Okay. And then the descendants of that baby also become haram for the family that the baby fed from, basically. So the descendants of the baby. Okay. The baby's brothers and sisters don't take the same ruling as the baby. Okay. Okay. Any questions in Rada? It's pretty clear, alhamdulillah. Like we said, most Muslims know these rulings, alhamdulillah. There's not too much confusion about it. The only thing that really we find people not understanding is how much is required to breastfeed. Most people think that it has to be 5 full feeds, and that's where the confusion happens. The Shafi'i madhab says it could be 5 suckles, okay? Some other madhab even say even less. Okay? Like the Malik and the Hanafi madhab, even less. So generally, you don't find this opinion that it has to be 5 full feeds in any madhab. Breastfeeding is something very simple. Someone feeds another person's kid, even for 1 proper feed, that could be all 5. That could be considered all 5 in many cases. And if that's ever happened, someone's fed someone else's kid, then we need to be aware of that. Even if they thought it was just 1 feed, it won't count. It does count if it's 5 different, parts, and khalas, that person immediately takes all the rulings of being a part of that family in Sharia. Fine. Now, alhamdulillah, we've studied everything that can make a person a part of a family, which is either to be born into that family, or to marry into the family, or to breastfeed and become part of the family. Okay, so marriage, birth, and breastfeeding. Now, people who are related to others have rulings regarding their rights upon them. Okay, because of that, the fuqaha mentioned the section of an-nafaqah. Okay, what's nafaqah? Nafaqah is when you have to spend on someone. You have to spend on someone. So the next section in fiqh will be the section of nafaqah, when a person needs to spend on other people. Who needs to spend what on who is what you study in this section of fiqh. So nafaqah is nutrition, clothing, and housing that is compulsory upon the husband or anyone else to give to their wife or her servant, or upon the parents upon the offsprings, or the offsprings upon the parents, or the owner upon a slave. So generally, nafaqah, we'll be studying husband and wife. It's the most important type of nafaqah that we study. And then parents on the offsprings, that's second most important, meaning that it occurs frequently. And then offsprings upon their parents, if the parents are older and the offspring is working, for example. And then the owner upon a slave. That doesn't happen today, but that is also something compulsory in Sharia. Nafaqah of servants and animals, usually I mentioned in larger books of fiqh, and basically it's not originally compulsory, but it becomes compulsory because of the ownership of that thing, or the slave of the servant of the wife or whatever, just in order to help the wife, then you have to feed them, stuff like that. Okay. So the 3 reasons that a person deserves nafaqah in Islam are a nikah, marriage, number 2, being related, and number 3, ownership or slavery, basically. Okay. Now, we could add to this and say that nafaqah is also compulsory from the rich Muslims upon the poor when there's no one else to take care of them. Okay. So the whole Muslim community needs to take care of the people who have no one to take care of them in Sharia. But that's originally not compulsory unless there's no one to take care of them. These 3 types of nafaqah are compulsory even if there's other people who might be able to support. It becomes compulsory upon these people to support these people immediately. That's why we study them. But in Sharia, yes, there's other cases where people have to. It's compulsory upon the rich Muslims to take care of the poor Muslims, and they can't be left for no one to take care of them. Fard kifaya, exactly. Yes, so it's compulsory upon Muslims generally. If there's one person to take care of it, khalas, no one else has to take care of them. But these are specific to certain people. Okay. The first type of nafaqah, the most important, is nafaqah related to marriage or nikah. And like we said, it's the most important, and there's more rulings in this nafaqah than any other nafaqah. Okay? More details. And the type of nafaqah that we study in nikah is a type of nafaqah that's mentioned in the Quran also. So Allah Ta'ala says, فَأَنْفِقُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ حَتَّى يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. It says, if you've divorced someone and they're pregnant, make sure you keep on paying for them until they give birth. Okay? Means that Allah Ta'ala is saying that before birth, just like you used to pay for them, you used to give them nafaqah, it's also compulsory after until they give birth if they're pregnant. So nafaqah is mentioned in the Quran when it comes to the nafaqah on a wife. Okay. And also, as we mentioned before, that Islam takes the aqd of nikah very seriously. So it's the most serious type of contract in Islam. This nafaqah is compulsory upon the husband towards his wife. And generally, the only condition is that the wife is considered mumakkina in fiqh. Mumakkina means that she is not preventing herself from him. Okay? So she's making herself available. That's basically in fiqh considered mumakkina. She's not leaving him, say, boycotting him, staying away without his permission, or staying at home, but living a separate, life. That person is considered nashiz, which is opposite to mumakkina, and doesn't deserve nafaqah because she's basically preventing him from the only right, really, that the husband has is that it's permissible for him to be intimate with her if she is well enough, of course. There's no harm on anyone. So if she doesn't prevent him, then khalas, he deserves all the rights of a wife. This nafaqah is compulsory upon the husband towards his wife, like I said, who's mumakkina, and not preventing herself from him. Some details of when a person is nashiz or mumakkina you can find in other books of fiqh, but that generally what I said is the general explanation of this. So she wouldn't, basically, like I said, she wouldn't go to someone else, sleep away from the house without his permission. wouldn't just run away, leave home, for example, that immediately means that she's not mumakkina. And most cases, inshallah, wife is mumakkina. So if someone is mumakkina, what does the husband have to do towards their wife? Okay, this topic is a lot of confusion, and you find people today, subhanallah, falling into one of either extremes. So you find that the things we mentioned, some people until today, even though we think we provide so much, don't do all of them. Okay? Like in fiqh, for example, provide meat at least once or twice a week would be compulsory. A meal that has a type of meat or protein in it and some sauce on the side, that would be compulsory in most cases in nafaqah, if that's the norm and that's what people eat, for example. If she doesn't, you know what, alhamdulillah, there's food at home, khalas, it can be rice and pasta every day, it doesn't matter. No, then he's not doing his right. He's not actually providing enough. Then other things, the opposite side is people expect so many things. Okay, wallahi, a new this and that every now and then. And if you don't do that, khalas, you're not giving me all right. That's not compulsory then in Sharia fiqh. So it's important we study the rights, and these rights, we don't want to go to the extreme, to the extent that we're only giving our rights. That's not what is expected in Sharia, not from the wife, nor from the husband, that we just give our rights. That's not what we want. These rights are there in cases where there's complaints, when someone says they're not giving me my right. And if these rights are not given, the wife is able to ask for divorce, separation. Okay, the Islamic judge can come and support her in getting separated from the husband, basically, if he doesn't give her these rights. Okay. Other than that, the advice is that we go beyond this. The relationship in Islam, husband and wife, is not built on rights, mine and yours. It's built on understanding, of course. And if you look in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, there's so much understanding that was there. It's not just giving a right, I give you a right, and then it's it. Khalas. In fiqh, we study the rights because fiqh is what is used for judges in the courts. Fiqh is what's used, for us to basically put down a law. It's a law, basically, Islamic law and legislation for the whole of mankind. Okay, so we have to know limits. But in Islam, we don't just act upon fiqh. We act upon Islam. Islam includes fiqh and includes ihsan, includes tazkiyah as well. Tazkiyah side is that you're much more generous with anyone else other than yourself. And you're the most generous towards your family before anyone else. That's, a key element to Islam from both sides. The relationship is built on understanding of what, always, putting the other person before you. But if it goes down to the state where people are, he's not giving rights, she's not giving the rights, this, that, then we can go down to these sections of fiqh and we can see really are the rights being given or not. If so, we can take steps like getting them separated or something like that, which we don't like to go down, we don't like to do. But anyway. So the nafaqah becomes compulsory every day in fiqh with the adhan of fajr. So the new nafaqah is compulsory every day. So if a person doesn't give nafaqah for one day, for example, what happens? It counts, it's also added to the day after. So you have 2 days of nafaqah, for example. Okay? It keeps on adding up. Okay. If the husband, depends on the husband's financial state, the nafaqah that is compulsory is different. Okay. So you have 3 states basically. You have someone who is musir, he's basically financially relaxed, someone who is mu'asir, financially tight, and someone who is between musir and mu'asir. So the husband is musir, he's considered financially relaxed. What is that? It means that he has more than he would usually need to live off for the rest of his life. So he has a lot of excess, lots of extra money that he can live off. He doesn't need basically to worry about earning, day-to-day income. Then what's compulsory? The first thing is 2 muds. So we start with staple food, and then we add on. Okay, the staple food. So there'll be staple food that's compulsory, and there'll be other things that are also compulsory to add on. Staple food, like rice, for example, things like that. Staple food that wheat, rice, stuff like that. The first thing is 2 muds every day of the staple food. So mud, Mud is basically a large man's hands. So it's a good amount. Two large hands. It's how much did I count it now? There's a lot of different calculations basically, but it's a good amount of food that a person could eat for the whole day basically, of the staple food, okay, of that city that they're living on, like rice, wheat, dates, things that people would use and the people of that city would live on. Most people today would be rice. Okay. Plus they say the fruit of the season in that area. So the fruits and stuff that people eat in that area, that's compulsory. Like the normal people, what they eat usually in their house. If you go to Malaysia, Indonesia, there'll be certain fruits that are always provided, for example. Khalas, that's what they would eat. Somali might be bananas, something else, that has to be given to the wife. And then also, plus they say the food of different occasions, like Eid and other occasions, whatever people eat in that time, you have to provide that as well. So there's the normal food for every day, and then there's the special occasion food that also has to be provided. The food must be provided, unless she doesn't want that. But the compulsory thing is that he provides the food in its original form, grain basically, whole foods, and then he needs to take care of getting it grinded and baking it or whatever it is. If he doesn't do that, he has to give money to do so. So enough rent to get someone to take care of the food being prepared. Okay, so she doesn't have to prepare the food for herself, but he gives her the same $20 to go to the guy down the road who's going to crush the wheat and make it into bread. Plus, he also has to give the $20 on top of those 2 moods of food to take care of. And we're going to get down to the meat later on, inshallah ta'ala. So we're just going in order now. Okay, so here's the mud, and then he has the fruit of the season, occasional foods, also enough money to take care of preparing that food. If the wife accepts, it's according to the wife, okay, if they agree and she accepts to eat with her husband in the house every day, whatever food is there, then it's fine as long as she agrees, and she is Rashida. What's Rashida mean? That she is someone whose opinion, she has her own opinion for herself. Someone's not very, like a little girl gets married, she doesn't have any experience, and she just agrees with anything. Doesn't count. It doesn't. He doesn't have the right to go and just say, "Khalas, I'll just feed you whatever you want, whatever I'll eat. One day rice, one day pasta, whatever. You're living with me. I'm providing food. Khalas, you don't have the right." No, she has the right for him to give exactly what other people have, unless she has a choice and gives a choice, or her guardian. She's not Rashida. Her guardian can decide on her behalf. So her father, her grandfather, whoever's a guardian, they have to look into the case and be able to decide for her. Other than that, he has to provide her all of these things in detail every day with Salat al-Fajr. Okay. The husband must also provide, let's say, what is called udum. So the things that are eaten with the dish. Say like chutney, sauces, things like that. They use oils, for example, things that they dip the food in and eat. That's also compulsory. Usually they talk about different fats and oils, basically, that are eaten on the side. That has to be provided with the food as well every day. And then meat or whatever, and whatever it's cooked with. So meat isn't cooked by itself usually; it'll be in some type of stew or sauce, something like that. Books and fiqh mention, it's very extreme. They mention 2 types of things that could be eaten: maluhi and bamia. So okra, for example, there's things like that cooked in meat that could be provided. And then the type of meat that he gives, the amount of meat, and how many times meat is given a week, depends on the state of the husband. So usually, most people eat meat how many times a week? I don't know. Depends on the culture. والله خلاص then it could be more. I would recommend 2-3 times a week maximum, but anyway, uh, some countries they eat meat once a week, sometimes they eat twice a week, and the husband's state is like they can't buy meat, it's very hard. SubhanAllah, sometimes some people once a month, but generally, according to the state of the husband, it becomes compulsory to provide meat that many times a week. So she eats like other people, and she's taken care of in that aspect. Okay. That's regarding food. We'll go back to food and we'll talk about the food, how much difference a husband who doesn't have as much money has to provide. It's only a slight difference, but we'll get to it inshallah ta'ala. Okay, clothing. So in clothing, the wife must be given clothing that is significant for her body size. So enough clothes that she needs for her body. Some people might need one cloth, other people might need a few different types of cloths to cover them. They might be bigger in size, for example. The clothing must be from a fabric that is suitable to the specific wife. So if cotton is suitable for this person, for example, they have to get cotton. You can't just get them any type of cheap material, for example. The quality changes according to the financial state of the husband. So it could be cotton, but cotton is also different levels, for example, according to the husband's state. So if he's able to get really good, nice quality, then he should get that. If he's really finding it struggling and difficult, then he can get a type of cotton that's not as expensive, for example. The husband must provide a full set of clothes for summer and a full set for winter. Okay. So 2 sets of clothes, one for summer and one for winter, for the wife to wear. So summer includes spring, and winter includes autumn, basically, and 2 a year. Something for hot weather, and other one is for cold weather, basically. That's the minimum. So 2 proper full sets that would cover and take care of everything. That's the minimum regarding what they wear. Now, people usually provide maybe more than that a year, but you find that some of them might not provide clothing that is suitable for the wife's rank or status or something like that. So subhanAllah, we find that people might do more in one side and then still not do enough from a different angle. That's why we studied this important. The husband must also provide something for wife to sit on at home, like a rug or something to sit on. She can't just be given an empty home with nothing to sit on. Also something for her to sleep on, like a mattress, and something to cover her, like a blanket, and something to support her head, like a pillow. That's the basic minimum for every single household. If the husband doesn't provide that, then he is considered muqassir. Other things that are compulsory, other than food and clothing, utensils to eat and drink from. Okay, something to brush her hair with and wash her body with. A place to live and a shelter, something suitable to the wife's level to live in, whether it's bought or rented. So rent is accepted. Some societies they say that you have to buy a house for my daughter. If he agrees, alhamdulillah, but generally it's not compulsory to buy a house. If it's rented, it's okay, as long as he provides shelter for her. It's compulsory. And then if she is from a level of society who have servants, maids, stuff like that, then she has to be provided with someone who helps. If you marry someone from a family who had a maid, for example, you have to get a maid for your wife, unless she gives up her right. Other than that, you have to. It's compulsory upon you, and you can't tell her, look, my mum and my sisters, they do everything at home. I do the same as them. No, wife doesn't have to adopt the culture of the family she's marrying into. You get someone from their house, that you have to give them basically a similar standard in living to what they used to live in their father's house, for example. Okay, so if we summarize everything, there's 10 main things that are compulsory upon the husband. One is the basic food, which is like you said, wheat or rice or something like that, and a certain amount of that, and then something to eat with it, like udum, like some type of condiment to eat with it, meat, and whatever comes with the meat, whatever it's cooked with, kiswa, so things to wear, to sit on, stuff like that, something to sit on, something to sleep and to cover himself with, utensils to eat, drink, and cook with, things to clean the house with, a house, and then also a servant if they meet the categories for that, basically. Okay. Let's go down one level. The husband is in a moderate financial situation. Okay, he's not as relaxed. He must give 1.5 mud instead of 2. So 1.5 So that's basically, you can say 1.5, like three handfuls basically, of that food that people can live off. You know, if you give people, for example, 4 or 5 cups of rice, they could live off it. And if you give them 3 cups of rice, they could live off it in a day as well. So it would still be enough for a person to live off. 1.5 mud is compulsory instead of 2. Who is a person who is in moderate situation? They say it's someone who has more than they need for an average life, and a little bit more, but not more than 2 mud on top of what they usually need to live for the rest of their life. Okay. If they even have less than that, so mu'sir means he has enough for his normal life, nothing extra, or he has less than he would need to live off for the rest of their life, then what is compulsory is 1 mud, not 2, and not 1.5. That's the minimum they have to give. But so really the difference is in what? Is in the amount of the original staple food that is given. That's where it differs, and you can see the difference is very small difference. Generally, there won't be much difference even in the price of 1 or 2 muds, basically. The prices would be more on renting and other things like that, which the husband has to provide. But the mud is where the scholars say there's difference in what's compulsory. Okay. The next topic I want to talk about, inshallah, is the nafaqah of a wife who is in her waiting period. Okay. So if someone divorces their wife, for example, okay, do they deserve nafaqah or not? Now they're no longer married, they're separated. If the wife is raj'iyah, what's that mean? She's been divorced once or twice, but he can still take her back. It's not a threefold divorce. Then everything a normal wife would have is compulsory. Okay? Other than what? Other than a brush and utensils to clean themselves with, basically. So basically everything is compulsory. Why is this not compulsory? So basically, if you're not allowed to be together in this situation, then she wouldn't have to, she wouldn't have any need to basically to fix herself up or anything like that. So, it makes sense. But generally, everything that is compulsory is compulsory. She's still considered a wife in Sharia. She can't be taken back. Okay, she's ba'in. But the period hasn't finished yet. The waiting period hasn't finished. Okay. If she's pregnant, she deserves nutrition and shelter just like a normal wife. If she's pregnant, like Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, فَأَنفِقُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ حَتَّى يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. Yes, to give nafaqah until she gives birth. The other things are not compulsory. If she's not able to be taken back and she's not pregnant, so 3 divorces happened, or she's pregnant and she wasn't divorced but her husband died, he can't pay for her anymore, okay, then she only deserves housing. Housing is compulsory upon a wife who is waiting in Sharia until she's done. There's no way she can go out and she can go back to her parents' home, for example. Other than that, she has to be given shelter as long as she's waiting. The next type of nafaqah we study is the nafaqah of relatives who are not husband and wife. It's a lot more simple, this type of nafaqah. And what's compulsory here is not a specific amount. Okay. Like it's not this mud and that much, and it's not like that. Okay. Here, it's enough to fill that person, so they can comfortably go about their daily activities. So to eat enough to give them enough energy to go about their daily needs. Okay. So it's not enough to just keep the person surviving. That doesn't count. Okay, you give them 2 pieces of bread and an egg a day. That would make a person very weak and tired. Okay, and it's not compulsory. Keep them full all the time, bloated. Just give them 3-course meal for every single. It's not compulsory either. Something in between. Okay, and it differs from person to person and from the size of that person to the size of that person. So like the calorie intake the person has, that would differ. For example, let's say the calorie intake of the person is from 2,000 to 3,000. 3,000 they'll be mashallah very full day. 2,000 they'll be hungry. Then something like 2,500, something like that. Something like that, basically, is what so it depends on the size, the need, the person. These things all affect how much they need to be given to go about their life, basically. With feeding, what else is compulsory is side dishes, udum. Yeah, the side dishes, like, like we said, some type of oil or some type of sauce or something with the food. Clothing, shelter, healthcare, and medication if they're sick, if they need it. And in some cases, if they need a carer has to be provided for them. So take care of their basic needs in life. Okay. Like what the government would do for a person who is living off support, basically. Maybe a bit more, maybe. They don't provide that much, but if they need a carer, they give them a carer. They give them free medicine, for example. You might get allowance to buy food. Similar to that, basically. It's very similar to that, what a person deserves. If they're not married and they're dependent, you have to give them the basic needs, and a little bit more than the basic needs, make them comfortable, but you don't need to give them a luxurious life. If you do, that's all extra charity from you, of course. Who deserves this? Okay. The parent or grandparent. So if the parent's not there, the grandparent, okay? Who has extra finances upon the expenses of themselves and their wife and her servant or carer. It's compulsory for them to take care of their descendants, okay? Who don't have enough money to take care of themselves, and plus they're not able to work to take care of themselves. So if your kids are unable to work, mashallah, they're strong men, they can go, they can buy and stuff. You don't have to give them all of this. They're able to rent, to live, to make money and stuff. You don't have to give them all of these things. It's compulsory until they're able to take care of themselves. And then khalas, you don't have to pay for them. If you do, you are giving them, you're getting rewards for that, of course, but it's not compulsory. If there's only one parent, so if there's only one, there's a mistake in the spelling again. If there's only one parent or one grandparent, so there's one father or mother or grandfather or grandmother, there's one only, then it becomes compulsory on that one to take care of the descendant. If there's two, the male, the father would be responsible. Okay. If there are multiple grandparents, but no parents, then the closest grandparent to the child would take care of them. There's a great grandparent, the grandparent, and the grandparent will be taking care, not the great grandparent, basically. So according to their closeness to the child, they would be the ones who have to take care of the child's needs. Okay, that's regarding the parents to the offsprings. Okay. Now the opposite is also compulsory. So if their kids or offsprings have parents or grandparents that are not financially stable, they don't have enough money to take care of themselves. There's a difference here, even if they're able to work. Okay. So you don't have to tell your parents go and work, they have to pay for you. No. The parent doesn't have enough money, even if they can work, you have to take care of them. Okay. So you say the parent, khalas, they can work, but they're done with work. Okay. They don't want to work anymore. They're getting old and stuff, and it's difficult for them. Khalas, you have to take care of them. If there are multiple children, let's say 2 boys, 2 girls, they have to share the responsibility. Okay. Now, the children might be from different levels, okay, and different genders. So generally, the scholars say, just like inheritance, they inherit different amounts. They also have to contribute that much to the expenses. So different kids may be paying different amounts of money towards the parents. If they agree on a certain method, it's fine. But what's compulsory is basically that they share the responsibility, just like they would share the inheritance. They also share the responsibility of the parents, and make the parents comfortable. Inshallah, we'll read the text of Abu Shuja, and in the text of Abu Shuja, we'll come across what the slave deserves, which is also very similar, inshallah ta'ala. And then we'll go to the next section, inshallah ta'ala. Should we read, inshallah? Okay. I think breastfeeding, I didn't put it in the. Yeah, we did have it here. Bismillah. Okay. So we'll read. We'll just read the English for time, inshallah. And then we'll do the Arabic later on, inshallah ta'ala. So starting from here to there. inshallah.
Nursing. If a woman nurses a child with her milk, the child becomes akin to her own child under two conditions. A, the child is less than 2 lunar years in age, and B, she nurses him 5 separate times. Her husband becomes akin to a father to him. It is unlawful for a child through nursing to marry his nurse mother and her kin. It is unlawful for the mother through nursing to be married to her son through nursing and his children, but not to his siblings or ancestors. Support. It is obligatory for parents and children to support their ancestors and descendants. Supporting parents is obligatory under 2 conditions. 1, poverty combined with old age, or 2, poverty combined with insanity. Supporting children is obligatory under 3 conditions. 1, poverty combined with immaturity. 2, poverty combined with old age. Or 3, poverty combined with insanity. Support for one's slaves and animals is obligatory. They are not held responsible for work they are incapable of performing. Spousal support. It is obligatory to support one's wife if she makes herself to him. Its minimum amount is as follows. If the husband is well off, 2 mud, 1.02 liters of the predominantly stored foodstuffs of the region, whatever is typically eaten with bread, and whatever is typically worn. If the husband is poor, 1 mud, 0.51 liters of the predominantly stored foodstuffs, whatever is typically eaten with bread and typically worn by the poor. If the husband is in between the two, 1.5 mud, 0.765 liters of the predominantly stored foodstuffs, food eaten with bread and clothes that are typically worn by the people of this class.
That's very clear, inshallah. The next section is very short, inshallah. We'll read it. It's a section of hadana. Okay. Because subhanAllah, I didn't have the text, so I actually wrote the text in Arabic and English, so we can read it from here, inshallah. And as we read it, we'll explain it, inshallah. It's very simple. So hadana is custody. Okay. If there's a separation between the husband and wife, who deserves to take care of the kids? Okay. Who has the right to take care of them? Abu Shuja says, وأحق الناس بحضانة الطفل أمه أمهاتها القربى في القربى ثم أمهات الأب كذلك ثم الأب ثم الأخوات الشقيقات ثم الأخوات لأب ثم الأخوات للأم ثم الخالات ثم العمات والحضانة حق للأم ما لم تتزوج بغير محرم للطفل فإذا تزوجت سقط حقها وانتقلت الحضانة إلى ما بعدها والحضانة تكون للغلام حتى يبلغ سن 7 سنين ثم يخير بين أبويه وكذلك للجارية حتى تبلغ كذلك ثم تختار.
The most deserving person from the custody, Habana, of a child is his mother, then her mothers, starting with the closest in relation, and then the grandmothers on the father's side, following the same order of closeness. After them, the father is entitled to custody, then the full sisters, then the paternal sisters, then the maternal sisters, then the maternal aunts, then the paternal aunts. Custody is the mother's right as long as she has not remarried someone who is not a mahram, i.e. permissible relative to the child. If she marries, her right to custody is forfeited and custody is transferred to the next in line. Custody for a boy is until he reaches 7 years old, at which point he is given a choice between his parents. For a girl, custody remains until she reaches the same age, and then he chooses to live with.
Okay, so custody is one of those matters that there's a lot of fights that happen. Who takes care of the kids? And people, sadly, all they do is they go to court and they just try to win the case, and that's it. And this is one of the things that they forget about the Sharia totally, because it touches their emotions and what they want, basically. In cases like this, they usually ignore the Sharia, which is something that's very dangerous. Same thing when people go through divorce. Yeah? I want to take as much as I can from the husband to get revenge from him. And some families, I know, the person was a millionaire, and he had like houses and stuff, and he bought it all with his own money. And she spent a lot of the years. He didn't, sure he had mistakes, but she spent many years with him. So she said, I believe that the time I spent with him means that I deserve take as much as I can. So she took half his wealth. You know, even though he had a lot of money, alhamdulillah, but half the wealth, I mean, that's dhulm, that's oppressing someone in Islam. You take, if someone has 3 million, take 1.5 million from them. That's not fair. You didn't earn that in your life. Yeah, you could have asked, if you think he didn't give you your rights, you should have asked for it then and put in your rights. But take half the wealth, okay, and then take the house from them as well. SubhanAllah, that's not fair. So people's emotions can get in the way from following the Sharia when they need to. So we always have to use our logic when it comes to this and understand that we are slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it matches what we want or don't want. Following the Sharia, it gives us the most blessings and barakah in our life. That's it. That's how it works. And that's why Allah Ta'ala in the Quran, He always praises the ones who basically they have problems. Everyone has mistakes. They follow, they do it with justice. He says, even if you divorce someone, either keep them and are good to them, or you divorce them and not only good, but you do ihsan. So our fuqaha, they say that when you divorce someone, you give them money. In the Shafi'i method, it's not a short amount. Give them a gift, a goodbye gift, basically. Yeah, there's conflict. Most divorces happen. Conflict doesn't mean that we're going to be bad to each other. We're going to go against the Sharia. No, we still have to keep the respect. Yeah. So in Sharia, if divorce happens, okay, it is a separation between the husband and wife. The mother generally deserves to take care of the kids. Why? Because she has a lot more affection, care, and usually she's the primary caregiver in Sharia. The kid also has benefit by being close to the mother until they are 7 years old. After that, they can choose themselves. They can choose for themselves. Okay. Before 7, it's very hard for a kid to have a choice. If the mother marries another man, khalas, becomes the father's. He becomes the one who deserves to take care of them. Why? Because marrying a foreign man means that the wife's priority in life has changed. Usually, if a wife is separated, her priority is her kids. If she marries another man, her priority becomes her husband, and therefore she's not considered to be as affectionate and as caring as she would be with the kid. There's also danger that husband could, for example, not be familiar to the kid, could harm them, whatever it is. So that's why it's clear in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, a lady came to him, she was crying. She said, Ya Rasulullah, I was divorced and my son is, my stomach, I believe the hadith, if I'm not mistaken, she said, my stomach was a house for my kid. He used to live in it. And my breast was a food for my kid. Okay, it was like it was a drinking water for him. And now he's taken my kid. He said, Anti ahaqqu bihi ma lam tankihi. You are the one who deserves the kid unless you decide to marry. And then it changes basically. So that's as simple as it is. In fiqh, inshallah, we have here the explanation of Ibn Qasim al-Ghazi. We don't usually read the explanation. This is the explanation, the most famous explanation of Shafi'i is the explanation of Ibn Qasim al-Ghazi. We'll read it inshallah ta'ala.
Qasim al-Ghazi, may Allah have mercy on him, said in his commentary, the most deserving person for the custody of the child is his mother, because she possesses a level of compassion and affection for the child that others don't. If the mother is present and has not married someone who is not a mahram to the child, then she is the most deserving custody. However, if she marries someone who is not a mahram to the child, her right to custody is forfeited, and custody is transferred to the next closest female relatives. If there is no one from the female relatives to take custody, then the father is the next most deserving after the mother and her mothers. Following the father are the full sisters, then the paternal sisters, then the maternal sisters, then the maternal aunts, then the paternal aunts. This order of custodianship is based on what is in the best interest of the child. Custody remains the right of the mother as long as she fulfills the condition of not marrying someone who is not a mahram to the child. If she does marry such a person, her right to custody is forfeited, as it is in the child's best interest to not live with a man who is a stranger to him. Custody for a boy remains until he reaches 7 years old, at which point he is given the choice between his parents. If he chooses one of them, he is handed over to them. For a girl, custody remains until she reaches the same age, after which she has also the choice to live with either of her parents, and if she chooses one, she is handed over to that parent.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So nafaqah we read, alhamdulillah. We did that. and also custody. We read that, so that's done inshallah ta'ala. We after that, inshallah, we reach the next section in fiqh. So I don't think we'll have time to cover it today. I hoped we did, but I think I was a bit optimistic. Which is jinayat, or crimes, basically. Okay. The scholars, as we mentioned before, they say that person, once they fulfill their basic needs in religion and worship, they have to buy and sell and eat. So there's transactions. Once there's transactions, they fulfill their transactions and they have enough money, they would marry. Once they marry, they get into fights, they divorce each other. Okay, so there's 6 months divorce, and then after that, after people fulfill all of their physical needs, marriage, food, everything, what happens is they start to fight and they injure each other. That's crimes. Okay, so there's a section in fiqh that's called al-jinayat, basically, which is crimes. Okay, when you hurt someone, when you attack them, when you take from them, what are the Islamic rulings? This is all mentioned in this section of fiqh. Whether it's harming someone or killing them, there's all rulings for that in fiqh, of course. And then punishments is after that. So the right of harming someone is something, and then the punishments in Islam, which is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if someone falls into a certain crime, there's also a punishment from Allah ta'ala other than taking the right of another person. That's the next section after that. And then after that is battle and fighting in fiqh, and then the last 2 sections of fiqh. So inshallah, the next class we'll try to cover a lot of this inshallah ta'ala. How many classes do we have left till the end of the term? So, 2. I think we have 3. We have 3 left. So hopefully we might be able to finish in 2 or 3. We'll see inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. Okay, inshallah, we won't rush to it, so we'll start next class inshallah with Janayat. But inshallah ta'ala, we'll try to finish. If we can finish in 2 classes, it's good, inshallah ta'ala. The next few sections don't need too much explanation. What I'm thinking in the next class, we will go quickly over the next few sections until we reach the last section of eating and drinking of food, which is very important. We'll take that in detail, inshallah ta'ala. And then the last section, which is the section of I'atq, of freeing slaves, which we'll go through quickly, inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll be done, inshallah ta'ala. So, inshallah, we intend to finish the next classes if we can, inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll have finished this book. I don't know when we started. I think we started after Ramadan, not this year, the year before. So it's been about 1.5 years. There's a few questions here. So in the chat. Let's see. Okay. The questions from last classes are coming up. So okay. No, okay. The question here says, if a woman already has a child that she breastfed and then gets divorced and remarries, a woman has a child with breastfed, then she gets divorced and remarries. Are the descendants and offspring of the stepfather marriage haram on the child? I didn't understand. Okay. Also, if the husband provides meat and vegetables for his wife to eat, is it also his or her duty to prepare this food into an edible meal? What? Mother. Okay, we'll read the questions in detail, inshallah, and we'll ask in the group. They need a bit of chat.
Spousal rights of men or girls,
Yes.
they're not dependent upon like haja or need. Are they, like, for
No.
example, the wife earns more than the husband?
Not at all, no. So if the wife's a millionaire and the husband still has the rights, and the husband isn't entitled to any of the wife's money
No.
in Sharia at all. if there's an agreement, they agree, alhamdulillah, up to them, but she's not entitled. And if she wants to pull out any moment, she can. There's that danger in that, yeah. If let's say let's go half and things, but if she has to pull out tomorrow, it's her right. Husband can't say anything about it. Inshallah, that's how it works. But then also, what her rights are these specific things. It doesn't have to be more than that. It doesn't have to be to get to get a a Lamborghini or a certain car over here, and that's not compulsory either. So, alhamdulillah, the best thing is that we agree to deal with things as works for us, basically, and alhamdulillah, everyone gives up whatever the other one's not giving and gives more than what they can give, alhamdulillah. That way, most families, alhamdulillah, work. If we're talking about our rights and your rights, it doesn't work, subhanAllah, because you'll find that each of them probably has made mistakes in their rights without knowing. SubhanAllah. Most people in their life, they make mistakes. Allah Ta'ala forgive us all, inshallah ta'ala. So, inshallah,